Spain 2, England 1, and if you're a neutral, honestly, what a feel-good ending to such a magnificent story. Spain, when all is said and done, when all the dust had settled, despite England flirting with a potential comeback and giving their fans false hope, came out victorious. And in the end, football heritage won. There's so much we have to talk about. I mean, we'll talk about Gareth Southgate in England at the end of the video, but first we've got to start with Spain, because what a journey. They've had to beat Croatia. They've had to beat Italy. They've had to then beat Germany, who arguably at the time were the favourites to go on and win the tournament with all the home ground advantage and just the beautiful football that they play alongside Spain. That was a tough game. And as if it couldn't get any tougher, they play against a French team who had not conceded from open play up until that point. So despite how poor they were attacking-wise, they were remarkable at defending and very difficult to break down. And Spain made light work of them despite going 1-0 down. And it didn't end there. They had to beat England in the final. That is another tough team, and they just overcame the challenge as if it was easy. They did it by staying true to themselves. None of this pragmatic nonsense. They played real football. They were not afraid. They played with courage. They played with bravado. And you have to sit in admiration of De La Fonte and what he's been able to achieve with the Spain team. So shout out to him. Shout out to all the individuals in that team. We've got to start with the two teenagers, the pair of Williams and Yamal. They were sensational. And I am scared to see what they're going to do at Barcelona next season. I'm scared of what Hansi Flick is potentially cooking in that Barcelona kitchen, because these two are genuinely electrifying. They're like lightning in a bottle when they come together. And even though Yamal didn't have his best of games, he did get an assist. And he was actually involved in helping Spain get over the line. So shout out to him. Shout out to Oyarzabal. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Apologies if I'm butchering it. He was sensational. You know, when he came on, he did a job. He got the goal. But more than that, he's just somebody who, despite not starting every game at the Euros, has been able to come off the bench and do a job when he's been asked. And there's no better job than to score the winning goal in the final, to be ready, to be on your toes as soon as your manager calls upon you, and to deliver. Unreal on the grandest stage of them all. So shout out to him. Shout out to Marc Cucurella, a player who's gotten a lot of criticism, I think unfair criticism, since joining Chelsea. A player who I believe has been victim of a chaotic club structure and poor tactics and several managerial changes. I think this guy deserves a little bit more credit because he was good at Brighton. You don't just suddenly become a bad footballer overnight. He was a genuinely good player at Brighton, and I still believe there is a good player there at Chelsea, because we've seen it now in the Euros with Spain. I genuinely believe that there is a player in Marc Cucurella, but he just needs the right system around him, and he just needs the right players around him so that he can truly blossom. So shout out to him. Shout out to Carvajal. He's not the prettiest. He's not the most glamorous of footballers, but he is reliable. He is consistent. And more than that, he knows how to win. This man deserves respect. He's won a Champions League. He's won a La Liga. He's won a Euros competition, all in the same season. Unreal impact. Unreal winning DNA. Unreal heritage. So shout out to Carvajal, man. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves as far as fullbacks are concerned. I hear Trent, I hear Reece James, I hear names like Hernandez, Theo Hernandez. I hear so many other names like Luke Shaw even. I hear those guys get shouts for best fullback in the world. And I never hear people talk about Carvajal except Real Madrid fans and people who actually understand how good he is for Real Madrid week in, week out, and how reliable he is. Also the leadership qualities that he brings to the table. So shout out to him. We've also got to say shout out to Rodri. We've also got to say shout out to Dani Olmo, because they had sensational tournaments as well. Rodri actually got a guard of honor from his team, which I thought was very wholesome, despite the fact that he plays for Man City, and despite the fact that I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like I don't respect him as a footballer because I'm a United fan. I'm not going to do that, because Rodri is genuinely world class. I can't think of many players who have been as consistent for club and country over the last 18 months other than Rodri. I genuinely think that if he wasn't a midfielder and he was an attacking player, he would win the Ballon d'Or. But because there is a bias in football towards attacking players, he might not. So shout out to him. He was sensational. That's pretty much it when it comes to the Spain team. I think as far as performances are concerned, obviously Pedri had a part to play. I didn't really talk about him. I didn't really talk about Fabian Ruiz, but honestly, we'd be here all day if I spoke about the Spain team, because even Laporte was good yesterday evening. I want to talk about Gareth Southgate, and I want to talk about England, because there's been a huge fallout when it comes to England. And as a neutral, I'm going to say this honestly. I don't think Gareth Southgate is a terrible football manager, because you don't get to 2 back-to-back Euros finals and a World Cup semi-final by being a terrible football manager. That just doesn't make sense. He is a very decent manager. His problem is when it comes to the crunch moments and it comes to taking risks and making decisions that will impact the team for the greater good, I don't think he's the guy. He's too timid. He's too shy. He's not brave enough in the big moments, in my humble opinion. The fact that Kane started every single game of the Euros is criminal, when guys like Tony are literally the reason England are in the final to begin with. Tony, against, I believe it was Slovakia, got an assist. He is single-handedly one of the reasons, alongside Bellingham, alongside Watkins, alongside Cole Palmer, alongside a handful of other players who've come off the bench. They are the reason England are in the final, and yet they don't get rewarded with starting positions. Constantly, time after time, Gareth Southgate is getting away with nonsense against teams that he should be beating anyways, because he's solving issues that he's created himself. And that's why I don't give Gareth Southgate a lot of credit for England making 2 back-to-back finals, because although it is a good achievement, it's not enough for the level of quality that he has in that England team. It's not enough. It's not enough. And considering the fact that this guy does not learn from his mistakes, I honestly, if I was an England fan, I would be calling for his head. I would be calling for him to get the sack. But, I'm not. I'm just a neutral. So, honestly, I think he's the biggest problem with England. Harry Kane, obviously, we have to talk about him, but Kane doesn't pick himself. Kane does not pick himself. At the end of the day, there's only so much a player can do if the system around them is not good enough. I feel sorry for Phil Foden. I feel sorry for Jude Bellingham. I feel sorry for Saka, especially Saka, actually, because I thought he was arguably England's most consistent player throughout the Euros, and still he's not being used correctly. So, yeah, man, lots of individuals who were let down by the system, I feel like. And even though they themselves arguably may not be good enough, at the end of the day, you've got to look at the person who's picking them and say, okay, what have you done differently? Why is Gordon not starting? What was the point of calling him up? England need an outlet in a final against a team like Spain that's dominating possession, and you're clearly playing on the counter, but you're going to start Harry Kane and Phil Foden up front. Make it make sense, Sway. Make it make sense. If there was one game where you would start Gordon and take a risk, and you would start Gordon on the left, you would start Saka on the right, and you would ask Kane to drop deep so that he can use them as outlets, it's the game against Spain. You know they're going to dominate possession. You know that you're not going to see much of the ball, and you're going to hoof it long anyways because Pickford doesn't want to play out from the back for whatever reason. Make it make sense, I just feel like there's so much that guy got wrong, and I think the sole reason that England are not champions is because of Gareth Southgate. I think this team is a reflection of him as a manager. I don't know, man. Food for thought. Anyways, it's been your boy Triple M. We'll be back to regular programming with regards to the content. I will be making club content again, obviously because the Euros is done. Probably a video coming up about Nico Williams going to Barcelona, a video maybe about Chelsea and their transfer activity. I've got to talk about Xerxes to Manchester United, so that's what we've got coming up on the channel. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments down below, anything you want me to talk about as far as European football is concerned. Otherwise, it's been your boy Triple M. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for watching the entire video if you did make it to the end. Otherwise, I got nothing else to say. Peace.